Dear SRCC community, today we are honored to have with us Mr. Kapil Kapoor. He is a distinguished alumnus of SRCC and has assumed various roles. He is the chairperson of InfoEdge, co-founder of Caledra Pacific Capital Partners, and also trustee and founder of Ashoka University. Sir has worked in various capacities, in particular leadership roles across continents. He has served multinational corporations like Timex, Nestle, Bausch Lomb, to name a few. He exemplifies strategic vision, leadership, and adaptability. So, sir, we are welcoming you on this edition of a special series known as Know Your Alumni Series.
Thank you so much.
And we'll start with the time in 1982
Right.
when you entered the hallowed gates of SRCC. So, what kind of encouraged you to take economics at SRCC?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and it sort of goes back to my childhood, where I was always very engaged with the world and wanted to figure out how the world economy works, what are the lubricants for the world economy, what's happening in different parts. And economics seemed like the most logical choice as a career choice. I was a science student just to keep my options open. But then I veered towards economics because of my engagement, and I was very keen on understanding business. I also had a bit of an entrepreneurial instinct, and I would start small little businesses as a kid just to pass my time. And so economics was quite an obvious choice for me. And then SRCC almost was an obvious choice because it was very aspirational. But besides being aspirational, I think SRCC had a very unique feature that some of the other colleges didn't have. It was very cool. It had a very cool image. And even today, when you refer to the college, people somehow imagine a bit of a zing that is associated with SRCC. And so I guess it was a very natural choice for me.
So, sir, you had a truly global career, SRCC to IIM Ahmedabad, to leadership roles across continents. What was there in SRCC which you took, which helped you, which basically kind of shaped your approach towards learning and leadership?
Well, I think a lot. When I look back at all the institutes that I've been part of, I think SRCC actually formed a lot of my basic leadership instincts, if you will, because some people may argue what I ended up doing in SRCC was canteen honors. We ended up spending so much time in the canteen that we would, we found our own voices, because you come out from a very regimented way of school life. And from that, you move to an environment where you suddenly say, hey, I could express myself in different ways. And SRCC really helped build that self-esteem. Besides, spending the time in the canteen, the extracurricular focus in SRCC. I was leading a society here called the English Literary Society. In the second year, I was the secretary, and the third year, I became the president of that society. So there was an election. You go through that and be able to stand amongst your peer and stand for elections, get elected. That itself was a lesson on how to assume leadership positions. Being a part of the Crossroads Steering Committee and being able to run a whole outfit and run a whole festival, building relationships with the industry, going and pitching the college with them, getting funds for the college, and then organizing the whole festival. All this gave us basic grounding in how to run a business, a company, and also how to work with people. Because the IQ, I suppose, gets formed in a little bit more earlier years, but there is what I call, which is I think a critical pillar for success, is the EQ.
Absolutely.
And also something, if I may suggest, a DQ, which is I like to call it decency quotient. And you learn how to interact with a vast strata of people across from all societies. And, SRCC was a bit of a melting pot. People came to SRCC from all over the country. So there were cultural nuances in how you sort of interacted with them, how you learned to what I would call situational management, because each interaction was got to be different. And in that sense, it really helped shape your leadership style. You learned very basic things. You made your mistakes. You learned from them, and you really sort of grew
Yeah.
in that. So I think it was absolutely fundamental in shaping a lot of my thinking.
So whatever societies and crossroad you are talking about, we still have it. Besides that, you'll be happy to know we have 70 more student societies.
Wow, wow,
So
that's
yeah,
great.
so it's all student run the way it was.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to you're sharing your experiences, and there is lot which your juniors, if I may call them right now,
Right.
will learn from this bit of yours which you have shared your experience. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So another thing you just talked about aspirational. SRCC is very aspirational. I quite agree. I've seen it for years now. And art students, basically, often they aspire to have careers which are very impactful in a way. Did your career go in the way you planned it?
Not necessarily the way I planned it, because I was more creatively inclined when I was in SRCC. I was also part timing as a radio disc jockey, and if that had been paying,
It was not heard of at that point in time.
yeah, this was only All India Radio. It was a single channel, but had a great viewership, a great listenership, and so I was conducting a lot of programs on radio, and in fact that helped me get to know a lot of secrets of people, because I was sending messages from one person to another through the radio medium, and it was a very fun activity, and I may have, if it was what it had bloomed into, or broadcasting and media has developed into, I may have made a career in the media. But back then, the upper middle class insecurities come to the fore, and you said, this doesn't pay enough. You've got to keep the home fires burning. So I said, okay, let's go and get myself another degree, which was at IIM Ahmedabad. So once I got that, I thought, when I was a government officer's son, I knew that life quite well. I thought I might end up becoming a bureaucrat. But by the time I had finished that, I decided, no, I was really enjoying the business and commercial world. And so I ended up in a career that was very different from the one maybe I'd envisioned when I was in college. But I think the fundamentals of whichever career you choose doesn't really change. So it didn't play out the way I had originally visualized, but it did. I could use everything that I'd sort of learned from the different experiences to really build and develop my career. And some of the basics that, like I said, I learned from here were very useful principles that I was able to use in all aspects of my career in many different geographies. So,
Yes. So picking from that, you have worked in various geographies and across sectors, right from consumer goods, luxury watches, technology, and education, to name a few. Our students, the budding managers, will like to hear from you. How did you adapt to all these leadership roles without compromising the effectiveness of the same?
Arunaji, as I was saying, the basic principles of leadership is agnostic to both geography or industry, because regardless of where you work, the some of the key learnings are, be focused on the voice of the customer. Always listen to the voice of the customer and be able to respond to that. Build high impact teams. Build trust. Build trust with all stakeholders, whether they're your customers, your employees, your boards that you work with. Once those principles of leadership, or those principles of management, they're not necessarily always leadership, but those principles of management stay true with you regardless of the geography you work in. They stay true regardless of the industry that you may work in. You may have to adjust it and remain adaptable and understand the nuances of each industry. But the basic principles and the laws of common sense, they don't change.
Is, yeah.
So,
So, sir, talking about in taking a discussion further, since you have assumed operational roles like CEO, and you have also served and you're still serving in strategic roles like non-executive chairperson and all of it. So decision making, as far as I'm just giving you my perspective, and I'm sure people who are outside these kind of organizations will share the perspective with me, that we always assume that the decision making in strategic roles and in operational roles is very different. If you can throw some light on it.
Yes, it is. I mean, to be fair, operational roles are all about building operating efficiencies. Yeah. So there is a clear bias to action, and you have to go and get work done. Go and get it done effectively. Execute with as much excellence as you can, and be able to get it done in a certain time frame. Meet your monthly, quarterly targets, and I think you're driven by those goals. So it's all about operating efficiencies and ironing out and making sure you have a well-oiled machine that is executing. And when you transition to more strategic roles, you have to transition to play more of a sounding board. Particularly if it is a board position, then you're sounding board to the CEO, where you hold the mirror to the CEO and you try and get them to say, okay, you're so focused on the here and now, but what is you're going at a breakneck speed, but are you going in the right direction? So you are calibrating the direction of the ship, right? And saying, okay, this is the direction you probably need to go in. These are the trends that are emerging. How do you now respond to those trends? And you also have to have the maturity that you're not the person executing. So you have to be able to communicate effectively, work collaboratively, but make sure that the ownership of whatever you do, you have your style is not a telling style anymore. You're not using a command and control style that you do in operating roles sometimes to get the job done. It is more an influencing and selling style, because it's the CEO who has to, or the leadership team that has to take ownership of the strategy and execute it. So it has to be developed very collaboratively. It is more of a coaching kind of a role. And so, yeah, you learn to transition into from one to the other. And it's good to have that back and forth, because when you've been on the other side of the fence, you're able to sort of appreciate,
Yeah, and yeah,
exactly.
understand their perspective as well.
Absolutely.
It's a wonderful answer. So thank you for this. So, sir, the students these days, you talked about just digitalizing economy. So what advice will you give to the young undergraduates now? How do they shape up their career in the rapidly changing and digitalizing world?
That's a very difficult one, because it's moving at the speed of light, as you know. What we think of today is going to probably change by tomorrow. But I think what is absolutely critical in today's economy is to build basic digital literacy. And that would mean using all the cloud sources that you have to be able to use that effectively, understanding security, cybersecurity principles and how you need to operate, using as many virtual tools to connect and get sources of information, using effective artificial intelligence prompts to be able to improve your learning pedagogical methods that are available to you. As I mentioned earlier, providing the right context, because there are many sources of information, but understanding the context with which the information is being provided, so it's discounted and adjusted for inherent biases that may be there, but being able to distill it, to develop a critical thinking style, those would be absolutely important. So basically having a very adaptable approach, being digitally literate, and going, but the basic principles, as I said earlier, will not change. It's still focused on the voice of the customer, deep consumer insights, and listening very effectively with your ear to the ground and staying on top of trends is going to be absolutely critical to succeed in the world today.
Yeah. So one value which you did not compromise, be it geography or be it an industry.
Uh, yeah, I think the one thing that has to stay true to you wherever you work is ensuring that there is no conflict of interest, which is remaining honest and true to the purpose with no personal benefit to yourself. That is absolutely critical in whatever you do. And once you do that, it is really interesting to see how much authority you can appropriate for yourself in decision making. People say, I need to get more authority. You can appropriate authority authority just by staying true to this one value and one principle, but I'm doing it in a very objective way with no personal benefit to myself. No one will ever come in the way of any decision we take anywhere in the world.
Maybe this is what passion is all about. Passion for your work. So, sir, the last question I'd like to put. One SRCC hack which you want to tell our students to be successful in life?
That's a very good question. And let me think about it. But I think what I would want to say is, as I mentioned to you, what I call SRCC taught me how to ace it. I told you the one thing about SRCC was aspirational and cool, right?
Yeah.
So I learned this, that in everything in life, if I learn to ace it, it has to be aspirational, it has to be cool, and it has to be executed with excellence. Anything I did, if it met these three criteria, I would go ahead and do it. So that was a hack that really.
So there is not one SRCC hack club, there are three.
I would say, yeah. But it was
so,
ACE. It was the ACE principle that I used in my life.
Yeah.
In fact, when I was running businesses, I had that at the back of my office. And I should ask the team, does this meet the ACE criteria? And they said, yes, it does. I said, go ahead and do it.
Yeah. So, sir, any message for the current students?
Oh, I think the only message is that you should recognize you belong to one of the most prestigious institutes of the country. Not just the country, but you've got ambassadors of this institute all over the world. You guys have to carry the flag from now on as you become alumni. And all of us are there to cheer you on and take the institute to even greater heights.
Thank you so much, sir. So something which I want to share with my SRCC community, that past few months have been an eye-opener, the kind of love, emotion alums have for the college, not only teaching faculty, but even for the non-teaching faculty, they have a lot of respect. So today I want to thank Vivek Chandra, sir. He is the batch ambassador for the 1985 batch, and he is the one who has made us introduced sir to us. And thank you, sir. We are bit by bit, we are making the chain longer and the bond deeper with the alums.
So thank you so much. We feel so nice just being back on.
So thank you so much. Thank you, sir. And thank you, Kapil, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.